World War II ended in 1945, leaving much of Europe in ruins and two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, emerging with vastly different visions for the post-war world. The wartime alliance quickly fractured as ideological differences, capitalism and democracy versus communism and state control, solidified into a global power struggle known as the Cold War. Germany, at the heart of Europe, bore the immediate brunt of this division. After its unconditional surrender, Germany and its capital, Berlin, were divided into 4 occupation zones, controlled by the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. While intended as a temporary measure, the growing animosity between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union led to a permanent schism. In 1949, the 3 Western zones merged to form the Federal Republic of Germany, West Germany, a democratic state aligned with the West. In response, the Soviet zone became the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, a communist state aligned with the Soviet Union. Berlin, despite being deep within East German territory, remained similarly divided, a capitalist enclave surrounded by communism. The division of Germany and Berlin created immense tension. East Germany, suffering from economic hardship and political repression, saw a mass exodus of its citizens to West Berlin, a gateway to prosperity and freedom. Between 1949 and 1961, an estimated 3.5 million East Germans fled to the West. This brain drain was a severe blow to East Germany's economy and legitimacy. To staunch this flow, on the night of August 12–13, 1961, the East German government, with Soviet backing, began constructing the Berlin Wall. What started as barbed wire fences quickly evolved into a formidable concrete barrier, physically dividing families, communities, and a nation. Along this wall, several crossing points were established, allowing limited access between East and West Berlin for specific individuals. Checkpoint Charlie was one such crossing point, designated primarily for Allied military personnel, foreign diplomats, and non-German visitors. It quickly became the most symbolic of these checkpoints, representing the stark division between East and West. The most dangerous moment during the Cold War occurred in October 1961, just months after the wall's construction. This crisis, often referred to as the most tense moments of the Cold War, brought the two superpowers to the brink of direct military conflict. The crisis began when American jeeps and diplomats attempting to cross into East Berlin started to be stopped by East German guards who started to deny and demand, asking to see travel documents, a violation of an agreement that allowed Allied personnel free passage. In response, the US military sent armed vehicles to escort the diplomats, including jeeps and, crucially, M48 Patton tanks. The Soviets countered by deploying their own T-54-55 tanks on the East German side of the checkpoint. For 16 tense hours, American and Soviet tanks faced each other across a narrow Berlin street. Their turrets turned, their guns loaded, aimed directly at their adversaries. The world watched with bated breath, fully aware that a single shot could trigger a chain reaction, leading to nuclear war. At Checkpoint Charlie, the weapons of war weren't symbolic. They were real, and they were ready. Each side had deployed one of the most capable tanks in its arsenal. And had tensions escalated into a firefight, these machines would have been the first to act and the first to fall. The American M48 Patton was a dependable workhorse. Weighing between 45 and 50 tons, it was powered by a powerful V12 engine, giving it mobility despite its substantial armor. The tank's primary weapon was the 90mm M41 gun, designed for accuracy and capable of penetrating most Soviet armor of the period. The M48's turret could feature up to 178mm of cast armor, rounded to help deflect incoming rounds. With a crew of 4, commander, gunner, loader, and driver, it was built for sustained combat and battlefield endurance. Facing them were the Soviet T-54 and T-55 tanks, leaner, faster, and incredibly prolific. Weighing roughly 36 to 40 tons, these tanks benefited from their smaller size and lower profile. Their 100mm D-10T rifled gun had superior armor penetration to the M48's 90mm, and their sloped armor, particularly on the upper glacis, made them notoriously difficult to disable. powered by a reliable diesel engine and crewed by four, the T-54-55 represented the Soviet doctrine of efficient, mass-producible armored power. So what if someone had cracked under pressure? If a single gunner on either side opened fire, it would have started with one tank, but ended with a cascade. There's no limited engagement when two nuclear powers are involved, and the tanks, they would have gone at it with everything they had. In that confined space, the T-54-55's lower silhouette and better power-to-weight ratio would have given them a mobility edge. Their 100mm guns had slightly better penetration than the M48's 90mm, especially at point-blank range. But the M48 Patton had superior optics, better turret stabilization, and faster traverse speed. Key advantages in a situation where milliseconds could decide everything. American crews also trained extensively for urban defense scenarios, and their fire control procedures were highly refined. It would have come down to who fired first and who hit first. Both tanks were capable of a kill shot. A round through the turret ring, a hit to the ammunition storage, or a strike on the lower hull could have knocked either vehicle out immediately. And with both sides sitting that close, there would have been no warning, no time for tactics, just flash, impact, and fire. One shot, one kill, and then the world burns. Because the moment one tank exploded, missiles would have followed. Armies would have mobilized. The Cold War would have gone hot. But the tanks didn't fire. Thanks to a series of urgent communications, backdoor diplomacy, and unspoken understanding, the Americans and Soviets pulled back. Slowly, silently, one M48 reversed, then one T-55, and the moment passed. We now know that behind the scenes, President John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, Secretary of the Communist Party, worked to defuse the situation. Not because they trusted each other, but because they understood the cost of failure. Both men knew a conventional tank duel in Berlin could spiral into thermonuclear devastation in a matter of days, if not hours. That restraint, that choice to de-escalate, may have saved millions of lives. The Berlin Wall would stand until 1989. But the 16 hours standoff remain one of the most chilling examples of Cold War brinksmanship. The tanks were real, the threat was real, but leadership prevailed. And maybe that's the lesson. In an age of overwhelming firepower, the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a tank can do is nothing at all.